Hello, Leeds United fans. Hope you're all doing fantastically well. It's match day with Mcgilligan. We're back here for the second edition of this show. We're going to try to do this on match day with you guys. And I just think it's a bit of a nice build-up, isn't it? We see it on LUTV as well, normally with Don Matteo and Emma Jones. But I feel like I want to bring a little bit of an exclusive one to the One Leeds Fan Channel. So when we can, we will be doing these, guys. Really appreciate your support. Apologies for no content at all. Can you believe it? From me, no content at all. Pre and post QPR. You know, it's nuts getting used to this, guys. I'll be honest with you. Like, from Premier League football, and obviously when I previously was on All Leeds TV and we were sharing the load a little bit, it's absolutely mental. Doing this sometimes twice a week when you've got a preview, a review out. Obviously, you're trying to upload to the Patreon as well. It's crazy. It's crazy amounts of content when you've got a job on top of that as well in a very, very similar space. So I just want to say thank you all for sticking by me. I really do appreciate it. As I say, I'm trying my best to get as much content as I can out, and I'll try my best to facilitate that for you guys. Just want to say a big shout out to Tom, Steve and Alan, who I did meet at Sherwood Forest Centre Parks this week. Believe it or not, guys, there are quite a few Nottingham-based Leeds United fans, which is always fantastic to see. Still, I think Hvar in Croatia was my most unusual place. Just a mini island just off Croatia, where about 7 Leeds fans came up to me, which was fantastic and just shows that Leeds fans are everywhere. But we're back here with your Bristol City match, match day experience, I guess, in terms of just discussing what's going to be happening. Quick shout out to, as I say, all of you guys, but just want to touch on the QPR game as well before we get into your comments. Please get your comments in the section below. I'm really interested. And as you can see right now, I'm having a quick look at the comments already. Really interested to hear what you guys have to say about this one. Obviously, the international break is coming thick and fast after this one, and Leeds need to keep up the momentum, really. The Southampton game, I think, gave everyone a little bit of a reality check as to this division still being as strong as we thought it was at the start. And a reality check for myself as well, going all the way back to the Southampton game. I thought that there was weaknesses where Leeds could definitely exploit Southampton. I mean, Stoke played them the other night, and once again, Southampton didn't look that good. Very, very dubious decision they got away with, and obviously they got the win at Stoke. But that's all it needs. That's all it needs. It's just a catalyst. Something going your way, and maybe the Leeds United win has done that for Russell Martin Southampton's side. Who knows? But Leeds rolled into QPR. It was a big game. It was a really, really big game. Leeds had to get the victory. We're going to get on to Daniel Farker's comments pre-Bristol City and post-QPR, but Leeds needed to get the victory. Quite simple. You can't really get into a rut in the Championship, and because of the automatic positions at the minute, which we're seeing, Ipswich on 25 points, Leicester flying, only dropped 3 points so far this season, which is crazy. I mean, Leicester are literally on course right now for breaking the all-time points record. You look at the bench. There's in my personal opinion, there's no way, not just us, it's I think even an Ipswich. I don't think Ipswich, who are 2 points behind them, are going to catch them. I think Leicester have just got the wind beneath their sails. I mentioned at the start, really, of the campaign that I think there's going to be one team who's just going to win it at a canter. I didn't think it'd be close. And I thought, obviously, at the start, I thought it would have been Southampton. They've not really got their you-know-what together. It's been Leicester. And that calibre of squad in the Championship is just ridiculous. And obviously, they won midweek again. Ipswich faltered, but they at the weekend, but they got a win as well at the midweek against Hull City, and Leeds picked up the win against QPR. Now, to just give you my just a few post thoughts on QPR, I thought it was okay. I thought Leeds were dominant in the first half. I think what we're seeing at the minute is Leeds United for so many years have been so profitable and so efficient going forwards. And I actually think it's quite weird now because I think we've got so much artillery in the final third, but you're seeing much more efficiency, in my opinion, when Joe Rodon and Pascal Strout plays a back two, and Leeds have that sort of back four, back five, I guess, if you put Ilan Meslier in there, sorted, and Ethan Ampadu just sitting on the toes of the defence. And I think the defence looks good at the minute. You know, I think Strout's looking fantastic, and believe it or not, you partner Pascal Strout with Liam Cooper when you have to shove Pascal out to the right, and this is something we're going to speak about today, is not good for Pascal's game. You know, creating angles for your right side in comparison to your left side, which is your strongest, is so much more difficult when you're being asked to pass out from the back. So I really feel for Pascal, and he's moved constantly. So how are you ever going to get settled, you know? Your defensive partner, Joe Rodon, was omitted from the side against Southampton for whatever reason. Massive Daniel Farke mistake. And obviously Liam Cooper had a tragic game. So this is something that we've got to get used to now. There is a little bit of a debate at the minute. Does Daniel want Liam or Luke in the side because he wants a leader in there? That's a question that I think needs to be put to Daniel Farke a little bit, because it seems like one or the other when both of them are running on empty at the minute. But I'm happy with what I've seen with Joe and Pascal, and it's about the efficiency going forward at the minute, you know. And I think what I did see at the midweek, watching the game back, was Jaden Anthony was superb, and that's what we really, really like to see, a winger at this level who's very, very good, a winger at this level who's going to be devastating if given the opportunity. And it's good to hear as well, on the other side of the international break, it's going to be Jed Spence time and Willian Yonto time. That's stuff that we need. We've got a lot of artillery coming back, but I have to say, if Leeds are chasing the top two, and that obviously that is, I've just mentioned that I think Ipswich are too far ahead. A lot of you guys will say, well, Connor, you can't, you know, Leicester are too far ahead. Ipswich are only 2 points behind them. That is true, but I think obviously Ipswich have a much weaker side than Leicester. Leicester just have quality. I mean, they've retained 90% of the squad from the Premier League and added to it really well when you look at players like Matchday. Harry Winks is also doing very well for them. So, yeah, there is a lot to consider there, a lot to unpack, and I'm just going to get into a few of your comments. Mike says, morning Connor, if Byram is injured, would you play Yelder or left back, or would you move Strout to left back and play Cresswell and Rodon at centre back against Bristol City? Great question, Mike, and you've given me a little bit of an alternative there, an alternative opinion. I didn't really think about Cresswell. Yes, I would. I think that's a really good option. I didn't really, obviously, if you guys don't know, Daniel Farke's pre-Bristol City comments, he gave a really interesting answer about a number 9 and number 10, which I'd encourage you all to go and listen to. He's very, very, obviously used to be a striker himself. I think he said in 8 of the teams that he's managed, he's had 6 or 7 golden boot winners, so trust him when it comes to the striker department. This is obviously on the back of Yoel Perot's very in and out form. Yeah, so that's definitely a conversation to look at. Because obviously Bamford came on the other night and did okay. I think a lot of people are, kind of calm down a little bit about Bamford. I think there's a lot of people who are almost Patrick Bamford enters the field, and if he does anything, any modicum of running or has any sort of like efforts on goal, he's suddenly the next coming of the striker that we need. Yoel Perot has got 6 goals this season. This is exactly what I said at the start. He is not the classic Daniel Farke type of striker. He's not, running off the shoulder consistently, getting in and behind. He is a drop-deep striker who is not going to be involved in 85, 90% of games, and Farke was right. Just to touch on the striker comment a little bit there before I get into your comment there, Mike. The stuff that you want from a striker is someone who presses. That's hence why him and Rutter have been alternating a little bit. You've had Bamford, who's come in, who does press a little bit more. And it's going to be really interesting to see what Farke does from now on, because do you want a little bit more from your striker than what Yoel is giving? He's an absolute devastating finisher, in my opinion, at this level. I don't know if he's Premier League level. I'll be honest with you guys, because I think you need a lot more to your game. But Patrick Bamford is going to give that healthy competition now. But when it comes to the centre-backs, I think Cresswell's a good option. And why is Cresswell a better option than Liam Cooper for this game? I'll tell you why. Because if you are, it all depends on where he's going to be playing Strauch. It all depends on where he's going to be playing Strauch. So I think I would like to see Cresswell there. I don't want to see Cooper there, but I think what's going to happen is he's going to push, as we always do, because we never buy left backs, proper left backs. He's going to push Strauch wide left. He's going to put Cooper left and Rodon right, and at least you've got a little bit of a balance there when it comes to the centre backs. Because I know a lot of people don't agree with this. But you have to have a balance. If you're a possession-based side, I don't think you can have two left-footed centre-backs or two right-footed centre-backs if you're a possession-based side, because if you're on the left side of a centre-back partnership, if you're on the right side of a centre-back partnership, you have to create angles for midfield. Liam Cooper, for instance, will consistently go on his left-hand side. He'll always go into that left-hand channel. He'll never really push the ball back onto his right foot and create an angle with his right foot. And it's very difficult for Pascal to do the same thing, even though Pascal's a lot better at it than Liam Cooper in possession. It puts more pressure, and when a team puts a high press on you and you're being forced onto your weaker foot in a possession-based system because you're not on the right side of that centre-back partnership, that's going to cause problems for the team, and hence why at large points of the Southampton game, Daniel Farke got it so wrong it was unbelievable, and he didn't rectify it. So I think what's going to happen, and what I would go for, unfortunately, in this game is a back four. I'd like to see Cresswell there. I just don't know how it would make up, because I don't think Yelder has had a good spell at Leeds United yet. I think what he's going to do is he's going to put Strauch left back, contrary to everything I've been saying. I think Cooper's going to go left back, Rodon right back, right centre back, and then it's going to be Ayling. So I think that's what we're going to get. Mark says, sorry, Mark, just looking for my coffee. Life's busy, mate. This channel is the best Leeds content. Keep up the work, mate. Solid Leeds mate, I can't even read apparently. Solid 2-0 win. Yeah, I really appreciate that, mate. I'm not maybe producing videos every single day, but I hope when you get the content, you appreciate the content. That's what I hope, and I'm talking some sense that some of you agree with. I hope. I always want some people to go away from these videos saying, "Oh yeah, I didn't think about that," or you guys might have taught me something as well. I try to have my own views on absolutely everything. I think that's quite unique in this space. So I really appreciate that, Mark. Happy belated birthday, top man Sam. Have I told you how old I am? If you guys have a guess on how old I am, how about that? Agree on Southampton, says Stuart Bauer. Both they and Stoke look poor. Made me wonder how the heavens they got that result against us. Stuart, honestly, mate, I think it literally is just how Farke set up. And we don't need to go into it too much, but I think it is how Farke set up. I think a lot of it was him not getting it right at the back. I think Joe Rodon plays that game. I know you guys might think this is very reductionist. I do firmly believe Joe Rodon in that back four, someone who's able to get the ball and move beyond a press, move beyond an Adam Armstrong, play the ball into midfield. It means that Kamara gets more of the ball, Ampadu get a little bit less pressure on Ampadu. And I think Leeds are in the game then. There's no way Leeds up defensive that shaky with Joe Rodon there. They just don't, has it been 5 clean sheets when he's been in the side, and Farke omits him from it, which was bizarre. Let's have a look. If Rodon started against Southampton, would have been a different game. Cooperitis, I do. Let's get into a lot of people saying 29 at Charlie, like you, mate. Oh man, Connor 31. Is that how I look, Nige? I thought I'd day over 21, Jamie. Do you know? I'm wondering how long I'm going to keep hold of the hair. Let's have how long's Connor going to keep hold of his hair bingo. How about that? I've been saying to my girlfriend, I've been like, look, listen, if I do lose it, it's just what it is. There are a lot of beautiful bald men out there. You might have to deal with it, mate. And I'd be sort of like 3 out of 10 good-looking bald man. So I'm thinking about what age am I going to lose my hair? I reckon maybe like 32, 33. Pass it to Perot, let him do his thing. Yeah, I agree. Rodon does not pass the ball back to Mele. Yeah, he doesn't, because he's got more to his game and he's a better player on the ball. He really is. Happy birthday, Connor. Thank you for giving us all saying 30 million for Notto in January. Would you take it? Wayne, what a question. He's fed me with a compliment and then he's absolutely fed me with a scenario. No, mate. If the club can afford it, I'd love to keep hold of Willian Jonso, because I think the only way we push on to automatics is getting someone like him in that. I know a lot of you guys don't rate him. Well, not rate him, but I know a lot of you guys maybe think that he's a little bit overrated, but I do think with Willie, he attracts, as he did against Millwall, as he did against Ipswich, he attracts 3 players every single time, because they're terrified of him. You know, I always just think back to that Salford game when Leeds were just funneling the ball to him consistently. And it is, if you watch Leeds under Daniel Farke when Willian Jonso is playing, a lot of the ball goes to Willian Jonso, a lot of the ball. So I think he's vitally important for Leeds. Summer, we're having a different conversation. And listen, we don't want to look too far ahead, but a lot of these players, if we don't get promoted, will be looking to move on, especially when you look at that attacking quartet and your favourite players there. We'll be okay. Nah, I'm only kidding. You'll follow your dad. Yeah, my dad's lost it, bless him. I love how everyone's just having a discussion about the hair in here. I just thought I'd brighten it up a little bit. This channel is the best channel I know for Leeds content. Now my work colleagues are tuning in. Keep up the work. Thanks for it. Oh, thanks, mate. Really appreciate that. All you guys saying 28 to 30. So you know, we'll leave it at that. But okay, let's get into the striker debate then. So, Joel Perreault comes in for Leeds United. He's got 4 goals in 7 games, as Daniel Farke was speaking about. That's fantastic. It is when you look at it. You know, 4 goals in 7 games. Farke was saying if he carries on that momentum, he's going to beat 20 goals. And he's right. He is going to beat 20 goals. He was talking about systems, and he was talking about, the thing is with Swansea, and as we saw with Dan James, do you remember when it was Dan James, Ollie McBurney, and there was another one in that front 3 for Swansea years ago, and we're all looking at Dan James and thinking, Jesus Christ, but that 3 up top, they defend Swansea, and then they'd hit that front 3, and Dan James looked like Theo Walcott 2.0, Ollie McBurney looked like R9 at points. Swansea was so good going forward in that season with Dan James for about 6 months. So it is very, very dependent on what side you're in. And he's completely right. But my theory on all of this is teams are going to sit in against Leeds. But with the talent that we've got going forward, he'll get more opportunities. He's going to get more opportunities. And Daniel didn't really speak about that. He was more talking about systems yesterday. You know, it's going to be harder for Joel to fit into this. And I understand, you know, a comparison I look at is someone like Harry Kane. And the only reason I mention Harry Kane is because he's a deep line forward. He plays in that number 10 a lot. He's played in that number 10 a lot for Spurs. He'd get the ball, he'd drop deep, he'd ping the ball to Son or Kulusevski as they'd invert as almost strikers. That's exactly what Perreault was essentially doing at Swansea, or albeit with maybe just another striker who was running off him. Obviously, there was Obafemi there last season, wasn't there? Or the season before that, who I think Perreault worked really, really well with. Now he's been asked, or he's been tasked to almost play as that front man. It's very, very different. But if he's lethal in the box, I want Joel Perreault in the box. Let the rest of the team deal with everything else. You know, let Rutter drop deep. Rutter's been superb this season. Let Somerville be a little bit deeper than you. You know, we've got Jaden Anthony who can. I like his game, Perreault. I do, but there's too many times that I'm seeing this season where we are actually getting to the byline, cutting the ball in, and the ball's in the box. It happened a couple of times against Millwall, a couple of times again, and this is just the eye test. You know, someone will throw some stats at me that this has never happened probably. But Ipswich, Sheffield Wednesday, there's a big one there. West Bromwich Albion, where the ball has been flashed across the 6-yard box and there's nobody there. And that needs rectifying. So the balance isn't right. Now, who would be there? That's the question. Who would be there? We know who's going to be there. Patrick Bamford is there. Now, the second question is, would Patrick Bamford be able to put the ball in from 6 yards? Now, that is probably that is where the question does lie. I would, at some point, you know, and he was mentioning this yesterday, Farke said, sometimes I'll put 3 strikers on the pitch. And he was talking about Bamford, Perreault. He mentioned Matteo Joseph as well. What I would love to see is Bamford and Perreault as a 2 together. I just want to see how that'd work. Would that aid Bamford? Would Bamford be? I mean, this season, for example, at Swansea, it would have been Jerry Yates and Perot doing this consistently. I don't think they've got that balance right yet with Rutter, because Rutter likes to drop deep. So it'd be interesting to see Pat Bamford as that leading man, and then Perot just in behind. But then you would have to forsake a Rutter, which is never going to happen. So he's got a lot of big decisions to make, and that's why at the minute you're looking at a scenario, and this is why it's on the thumbnail. Is it going to be Bamford or Perot? Because if you not muck around as such, but if you change the system a little bit, or if you put a front two there, Rutter is going to suffer, which you just cannot take Rutter out at the minute. He's for me, he's caliber wise, he's the best player in the Championship, probably with Dewsbury Hall. So a lot to consider there, but Bamford does offer you something different, and we haven't seen Bamford. Listen, it's almost like a trial and error thing, like we saw with Byron. I do not rate Patrick Bamford whatsoever, and you guys know that. I've been so honest about Patrick Bamford for 5-6 years. Even when he scored 16 goals in the Championship, I'd be coming on here absolutely bawling at Patrick Bamford. Why? Because when we were winning games 1-0, or, when it'd be 1-1, whatever, or it'd be narrow games, he'd miss so many chances, and he had Pablo Hernandez behind him, feeding him consistently. And that season under Marcelo Bielsa, he should have got 46 goals, never mind 16. But under Daniel Farke, we've given other players opportunities. Liam Cooper, in my opinion, hasn't really taken those opportunities. Luke Ayling is just out. He's completely gone. Unfortunately, we're going to see him again today, and that's where probably Bristol City will target. But Luke Ayling's gone. Patrick Bamford is one that we're looking at and thinking he's an absolutely diabolical finisher, but he'll run those yards. And is that what Farke wants? Is that going to aid the system more? Because sometimes, everybody, I said this on the last video, I'm seeing a press, but then I'm not seeing a press. Now, with Marcelo Bielsa, what did you get for 90 minutes or 80% of that 90 minutes? A press. A unit press. You knew what you were getting from Marcelo Bielsa. The three clowns we had after Bielsa, didn't know the head from their arse, did they really? But that's what you got. With Farke, I'm still not sure. Even in the QPR game, sitting back a lot, letting their centre-backs have the ball in that second half. I understand keeping that defensive structure, but I just wonder if Bamford would aid a lot more, was essentially defending from the front at points. Bamford can pull the defenders out of position, leading Perot free to tap in the goals. Rutter on the right. As the vision, creativity has been excellent so far. Somerville, Anthony on the left. Joel has got to stay with Perot, surely. Like Farke said, it's all about the process. Need to be getting goals from all over the pitch, not focusing on Rutter every game. Rutter needs to be consistent, says Sam. Perot needs a rest. That's probably a good point. Does he need a rest? As I say, the transition between Swansea and what we want at Leeds is massive, but Swansea played every game. I mean, that's the thing you got to take into consideration, Sam, with Rutter, with Perot. It's his dependability and reliability. And you guys know I always go on about this crap, but it's so important in football. And this guy has been available for Swansea for 2 seasons consistently. And they're all... I've got a Swansea fan who I play 5-a-side with. They're begging for him back. They miss him so much. Oh, how's Perot doing? God, I miss Perot. So I do think we've got a gem on our hands here. Maybe Swansea at that point, and he has got 4 goals in 7 for Leeds, but maybe Swansea were able, with their system, at this moment in time, to get more from him. And maybe that's where Farke needs to tinker a little bit. Bamford done for me. Mark saying I'm 42. Thanks, pal. Thing is, we are all the experts in picking a team. However, how many have they managed a top team? Gary Neville, he knows so much. How do you do it, man? That's Mark. That's why we're here, buddy. We're here to just put hypothetical situations in there and discuss football, mate. I haven't been a manager myself, but I give my opinion. Mark, you cheeky chappy, you're always coming for me and everyone else. Mate, it's just what it is. You can have your opinion, mate. Get your opinion. Mark, just because you've not managed, mate, or I've not managed, or Marching On podcast hasn't managed, Paul's not managed, Roger's not managed, or they might have done, who knows? But if they haven't, it doesn't matter. They can have a football opinion. Right, I'll tell you what, lads and girls. Let's get on to Bristol City. So obviously the game that we are playing today is against Bristol City. Their last game, they won 2-1 away at Rotherham. And something that I wanted to bring up, actually, Pearson's side, and Farkas mentioned this in his press conference, that he's going to be a little bit more structured, a little bit more resilient, sitting in deep than maybe Leeds are used to, even with the teams that we've faced this season. Because I think they'll do it with better quality. 11th in the table. And what I wanted to bring up was their away record. Now, they've drawn away at Hull, 1-1. They've beaten Swansea away, 2-1. One home result that I want to throw in there. They've beaten Plymouth 4-1. They lost away at Leicester, where Leicester, to be fair, battered them, and it should have been 3 or 4-0. But they went there to sit in deep. The return of Nigel Pearson to Leicester City, of course, but they sat in deep. And they restricted and frustrated Leicester a lot. You know, that game, it was extended highlights on the Championship show when I was watching it. It was the main featured game because Leeds had won that game as well. And I remember watching it, and Leicester were all over them. But Bristol just sat in deep, and they were good. They were good defensively, very good. And that's what you expect from a Pearson side. Now, their recent result, 2-1 away at Rotherham. So you've got 1-2, a draw, and they've beaten Millwall as well away from home. So they've picked up, let me just have a look at their away wins here. So 3, 4, 7, 10. So they've already picked 10 points up away from home. Now, have they played a Leeds United yet? Well, Leeds are in the same bracket as Leicester in terms of probably squad quality. That's rubbish, actually. Leicester's better when you look at the bench, but it's on that same, top 3, top 4 championship standard side. So you're expecting Leeds to have a lot of the ball, but this isn't going to be easy, everyone. Now, I've come on here every single game pretty much and said that Leeds are going to win. I think I've predicted us to win the last 4 games, including Southampton. This is going to be difficult. And the reason this is going to be difficult, and Farker knows it is because they don't concede a lot of goals. They do not. I mean, I'm literally looking at their results here, and take Stoke out of it. Who beat them 3-2 away in a little bit of an anomaly game. They've conceded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They've conceded 6 goals this season. Obviously, you can't take out that Stoke game because that is in there, but it's a bit of an anomaly. But the whole point is, defensively, that's what Nigel Pearson has always structured his sides on. It's keeping a solid base, and the attack comes secondary, really. Because, I think that's a really good philosophy when it comes to football. If you're solid at the back, you're going to pick up points. And if you can get the attack right, fantastic. But normally it's one or the other, really. You're very, very, efficient at the back, and unless you're Manchester City, you're not as efficient going forward, or you're very efficient going forward and you're not great at the back. And Leeds have suffered with that since Gary Monk, really, where we were great at the back, not excellent going forward. Bielsa, we're excellent going forward, but not great at the back. Marsh, we were just shit. So, yeah, a lot to consider here when it comes to this side. Now, for me, it's the makeup of the front 4. Now, we've heard that Jayden Anthony in the post-match presser is going to be 50-50. Somerville obviously gets his goal. He starts. Rutter, excellent again, obviously starts. The conversation with Bamford and Perot up top. A lot of people calling for Dan James. Now, if Anthony isn't available, we know what we're going to see here. Now, that worries me a little bit. Because if it is Dan James, and we know he's got I love Dan James. Dan James is great effort, great endeavour for this Leeds United side. He loves Dan James, doesn't he? Daniel Farker. Great player. So we need to all come to the realisation that if Anthony's not playing, I do think there's going to be Dan James. I think he's going to be part of the starting 11, to be honest with you. And that worries me a little bit, because how wasteful this guy is a little bit of a worry in that final third. So if they're going to sit in Bristol City, soak up a lot of the pressure and try hit Leeds on the counter-attack, you're hoping that what would be perfect would be an early goal again. The early goal the other night was great. Leeds weren't able to triple their lead, but the early goal was great, calmed a lot of nerves. And this is what you need in games like this, because teams like that, if it's 0-0 after 45 minutes, they're going to be really encouraged. They really are. So Leeds have really got to show some quality in that final third today. Good to see you, Connor. Hey, Jamie. Bristol City are 4th in the away table. I couldn't believe it, Jamie. I had a look at their away record, and I'm like, Bloody hell. Have you all seen that David Dickinson meme? Bloody hell. That's literally what I was doing. I couldn't believe it. So they picked up some good wins. As I say, Swansea away, it's never an easy place to go. We all know that. Leicester, as I say, Leicester, they weren't great, but they were still in the game. They only lost 1-0. I don't think many teams, will go to Leicester and only lose 1-0 this season. Beating Rotherham away at the weekend, I think they've got a last-minute winner. So they're going to be right up for this. They've got a decent standard side as well. So Farker, I believe, rates Bamford as he was speaking highly of him in the press conference, has been giving him more games from the subs bench. Maybe, Jamie, maybe. Now then, Con, how you, Rad? Hope you're good, mate. How about Bamford up front and Rutter on the wing? Oh, no, Jesus Christ. You might as well say to me, why don't we have a front two of Dan James and Patrick Bamford? Imagine how wasteful that would be. Jesus Christ. But yeah, so I think that's what's going to happen. I think James is going to play. So Leeds have just got to be efficient quickly, basically, in this game. So I think the longer it goes on, the tougher it's going to get. I could see a draw today. I could. I've got a feeling I've got another 0-0 running through my bones, which is, whoever predicts 0-0s. But I think Leeds will be fine defensively. Personally, I mean, they might do now. I might jinx it, but I don't think, they've got enough to offer to worry us defensively. Even if Pascal is left side of a back four, he's still in that makeup. Cooper, I think in games like this will be solid. I think in the top tier games, let's say a Leicester away or a Sunderland away, games like that, I think Cooper will massively struggle. But home games where the fans are behind us and we're probably expected to win, I think Cooper will be fine. And if they're not offering that much threat, in the channels and have a real nippy striker up top who's going to cause Cooper loads of problems, I think we'll be okay. Cooper in there doesn't really worry me for this game, but I think it's going forward, everyone. QPR were tragically bad. Sheffield Wednesday, I thought, were the worst team I've seen at Ellen Road in a long time. QPR, they were hideous, and we could only score once. Sheffield Wednesday at Ellen Road, 0-0. West Brom weren't great, were they? And listen, I know they're doing okay table-wise, the seventh, but start of the season were bad, 1-1. Leeds are being, in my opinion, quite wasteful at Ellen Road still. And I know the 3-0 Watford was a bit of an anomaly. We need to start seeing more consistent, big scoring games at home with what we've got going forward. And we need to be less wasteful in front of goal. We really do. I thought Watford were worse than QPR. Yeah, I thought, to be fair though, Sam, I thought Leeds were very good that day. I think you said this, something similar, to be fair, on the day, but I thought Leeds were very, very good against Watford. That's probably the best 90-minute performance I've seen since a Bielsa side, to be honest. I thought it was that good. Luke says most home games this season will be tough when they naturally sit in. I'd take another one. Hey, Luke, you're not wrong, mate. You're not wrong. Goal difference, I think, will be a thing. But if it is going to be this tight this season between maybe us, Ipswich, or Sunderland for that second spot, if we are to push them, so goal difference will be a thing. And I just think it'd calm a lot of nerves if Leeds are able to score a couple more. And listen, we can't all wish for things that aren't realistic. And Daniel Farke will be sat here saying to me, "Look, Connor, you can't be winning every home game 3 or 4-0." And I understand that, but games like QPR, games like Sheffield Wednesday, games like West Bromwich Albion, you want a few more goals. Games like Cardiff, but this game in particular, I'd take another 1-0, and I think that's what I'm looking at. To be honest, I think I'm looking at another narrow game. So that's why I'm sort of going toward a draw, a 0-0 draw, or a 1-0 win. I think that's what I'm looking at. And as you've just quite rightly said, if Leeds are to score just the one goal and win 1-0, fantastic. It just puts a lot of pressure, Luke, on the defence if we're trying to, if we're only scoring a goal a game at home. And I know, as I said, the Watford game's an anomaly, but I think Leeds need to just start being way more efficient in front of goal. And if that happens, then Leeds will be absolutely fine this season. But as Daniel Farke has said, we need goals from everywhere. and we need to be scoring a lot of goals. You forget that those two Norwich teams that went up were scoring goals all the time. I mean, every time you switched on the TV, Farke's Norwich side, when they were in full flow, it was 3-4-0 or it was 3-4-1, 5-2s. They were scoring loads of goals. I actually don't think they were amazing at the back in that second campaign for periods, but overall, like, they were just flying, going forward. And I think that's where Leeds need to be at points this season. Yeah, a lot of people are saying this match on podcast. I don't see Ipswich or Preston up there. Ipswich is I said at the start of the season, I think they'd be top two. I also thought Southampton would win the league, but they still might. I think they're a bit far off now, though. Although, bizarrely, I think they're a point behind us, Southampton, which is crazy when they went on four losses on the bounce. But they're on the same points, I think. I think there's about 4 teams on 10 points, aren't they? But yeah, I think there's a lot to consider with Ipswich. I think the momentum, they are at this moment in time, there's never ever been a better team that has been promoted from the 3rd tier. There's never been a more consistent team at this phase of the season in the 2nd tier than Ipswich. It's never happened. So obviously, we've been up Southampton, Norwich previously in League One seasons, but there's never been a better team so far than Ipswich. I just think it's momentum as well, and I think they look strong. McKenna's got depth on the bench as well. I thought Ladapo came on the other day, obviously the ex-Rotherham striker who's been very good and is very highly rated in the lower divisions. Forgot about him. And they just seem to be ticking over nicely, and their system seems to be winning them a lot of games, and they're so strong at home. I don't think there's probably not going to be another team to beat them down there. Maybe Leicester, but there's not going to be another team to beat them down there. So if they're winning pretty much every single game at home, picking up the odd point away from now on, they're going to be there or thereabouts, aren't they? I can't just see a sudden drop-off, to be honest. I know. Leif Davis as well. Connor, do you think we will go up? I said at the start of the season we'd finish 6th. Every time we win a game, I get people saying, "Do you want to change your prediction?" I think we'll get stronger. I do think we'll get stronger. I think Leicester are out of sight. I don't think they're going to be dropping many points. I think they'll break 100 points, to be honest. I think they've just got, just looking at their team, I was looking at the team the other day, and even the bench, and you've got Iheanacho, Daka. It's just like they benched Ndidi the other day, and it's like that caliber. I don't think we've ever seen a stronger side in the Championship. I think the only one, the one side that I can think of which matches them caliber in the Championship wise was when Newcastle came down with Kevin Nolan, Joey Barton, Carroll. They had a really good Championship side, but their bench, it's just their bench. I'm looking at it most weeks and I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's, as I said, they've kept 90% of the Premier League sides. So I think Ipswich will win it. I think Leicester will win it. Ipswich will be a mighty feat, but I do think if they lose a couple of games, and this is why it's so important Leeds winning these games. Ipswich lost, I think it was at the weekend, and then we lost to Southampton. That ground has to be made up, guys, at some point. I think it's are they 9 points ahead of us? We need to make that up at some point. So I think for that second spot, it is going to be between us, Southampton, and Sunderland. That's what I think for that second spot. I think Sunderland are going to get stronger, and they're a good team, Sunderland, they are. So I think Leicester are done. I think they're champions already, believe it or not. But I think that second spot could be, I think it's 4 teams, 3 or 4 teams that could be in for it. 3 teams that could be in for it. Southampton, us, and Sunderland. Yeah, Dave, you're right. I said this at the start of the season, mate. Mark says, Iheanacho and Ndidi will go in January. Trust me, I have good connections at LCFC. Up, you're right, mate. Up, you're right, Mark. Mark in the know, Edison. Under 21s played great last night. They did. Yeah. Any thought that Leicester might lose several in January? Their financial problems might get reeled in after Christmas. Yeah, what I heard was that they got a loan out. And that loan repayment has to be essentially paid back to them by 2025, and it's a massive loan. So this is why they've gone balls deep. It's almost an Aston Villa situation where they've gone balls deep and they have to get back to the Premier League. Like if they stay in the Championship, they're up shit creek without a paddle. They really are, and that's when I think I think when it comes to their financial implications, I think a lot of that is going to come to the surface in summer. But from what I understand, they've got a massive loan out that has to be repaid. And obviously, that if you get back to the Premier League, that repayment is going to be a lot easier than what it would be in the Championship. So yeah, if Leicester do somehow blow up, they're in deep trouble. But I don't think they will blow up at the minute. Is it a disaster if we lose today this early in the season, says Ryan? I think, Ryan, it depends on your goals, mate. It depends on your goals. So if we look at Ipswich today, let's have a quick look at Ipswich. And I'm only looking at Ipswich because, Ipswich have got Preston today, which is a big game. That's another one they have to come through. Another one Preston have to come through to show the credentials. Obviously, Preston sat there on 20 points. Good start to the season. I do think they'll fall off, but there's been teams like Preston before where everyone thinks they'll fall off and they just don't. But I do think they will. I think they've got a lack of quality. If Ipswich were to win today and Leeds were to lose, that I believe, if we're to just look at the table now, and this is all hypothetical, this is just off of Ryan's question here. So let's have a quick look at the table. So yeah, if Ipswich are to win today, they go to 28 points. If Leeds hypothetically don't win today, they stay on 16. That opens, so after 10 games, that opens it up to 12 points. Presumably Leicester are going to win today or tomorrow, whenever they're playing. So then you got to look at Leicester as well. Then Leicester will be, 14 points ahead of us? I know we keep saying it's early on in the season, and it's a comfort blanket that everyone keeps saying, oh, it's early on in the season. I had people, I said after 6 games on Twitter, after 6 games, I think Leicester won 5 out of 6. People kept telling me to calm down. And I was like, I'm absolutely fine. I'm not being reactionary. They've lost the Hull. That was it. But I think they've got enough, and they've got this momentum now. They're playing a decent style of football under Enzo. It's high pressure. It's intense. Getting the best out of Vardy all of a sudden. Mavdidi's a brilliant signing. Dewsbury Hall seems to be taking that mantle in midfield over a James Maddison, filling that hole. Ndidi's playing well. So they've got a lot there, which, emphasised to me very, very early on that they're going to be a really big problem. It wasn't novel, but a lot of people were saying back to me, can't he be too reactionary? Judge it after 10 games. All right, I'm judging it after 10 games now, and they're still the exact same momentum-wise. So what are we doing? Are we now leaving it to 15 games, 20 games? When is the realisation going to hit that they've really hit their form now? And hopefully it does blow up. But the whole point to what I'm saying is if we are aiming for top 2, and Ipswich are to win today and Leicester are to win today, we're looking at a scenario where after the international break, Leeds have to make up 12 points on Ipswich and 14 points on Leicester. It's a big gap, everyone. That is a big gap. And normally, even last season, there wasn't this big a gap. There wouldn't have been, let's say, this big a gap from 6 to the top 2. Top 1, even. I think there was 5 points between, I think it was 6th and 1st, which was 6th, I think was Burnley, which we do have to take into consideration. Top at that time was Sheffield United on about 23, 24 points. So there's 6 points. If we are to lose today, which I don't think we will, but if we are to lose today and Ipswich are to win, hypothetically, 12 points and 14 points, let's say if Leicester do win as well, that's a big gap. That's a big gap. And if people keep telling you, oh, it doesn't matter, judge us after 15, 20 games. Come on. So, yeah, it's a big game for Leeds today. Only 4 wins, Elliot, but that means they have to lose 4 games as well. This is what people keep forgetting. It's they have to essentially lose 4 or they have to lose 3 and we have to make up those points. I'm not saying it's not doable, but we've got to get our realistic hats on at some point because these teams, Leicester have lost 1 game all season. I don't think Ipswich lost. Ipswich have lost 2. So, yeah. I'm not saying that will happen, but I'm saying if we lost today, I do think it would be a little bit problematic, yes. That is true, mate. That is true. We do have to play him twice. Connor, would you go for share in January? I would. Yeah, I think apparently there was complications on the deal, which I don't understand why there were, but Leeds just weren't convinced on him from what I've been told, which is a bit odd. But yeah, I would definitely go for Elias Share. But guys, I'll tell you what, we'll leave it there. Because I've been going on for 45 minutes, and this is supposed to be like a brief match day chat. It's been an absolute pleasure. I will be back with a post-match discussion, so we'll leave everything ready here. I'm not going to bring the set down. Believe it or not, everyone, we've got a little bit of a set going on here. So in my like tiny little front room, it is difficult putting it up and down and all this sort of stuff. So I'll leave it as it is. We'll be back here for a post-match review on the game. I'll tell you what, I'll go with the 1-0 Leeds win again. I'll go with a Leeds win again. I think if we're efficient in front of goal, sounds obvious, but we'll win the game. I think if it's 0-0 after 45 minutes, I'll be slightly worried. So hopefully we'll get an early goal. It's been an absolute pleasure. Guys, before you leave, please make sure you slap a like on the video. If you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Make sure you subscribe, and I will see you on the post-match. It's been an absolute pleasure, everyone. Great to be back. Have a good day, and let's see a Leeds win. Come on, Leeds.